Hey everyone, welcome back to On Purpose, the #1 health podcast in the world. Thanks to each and every single one of you who come back every single week to listen, to learn, and grow. And you know that I make it my best effort to find guests and connect and create conversations that I think are going to serve and support you in amazing ways. And today's guest is going to do exactly that. She's not going to disappoint. And today I'm live from We Day. And if you don't know about We Day, it's part of the We charity and the We movement, where 20,000 kids today are being celebrated for the service they're doing in their local and global communities. It's phenomenal. Now, I've already been out on stage, but our guest today, Katherine McNamara, has not been out on stage yet. We've just sneaked her in here to have a moment to ask her a lot of different questions about her life, her perspective, why she's here today. And for those of you who don't know Katherine, I want to tell you some amazing things about her. So listen to this and listen carefully. Katherine is best known for her role on the teen drama Shadowhunters, which has received 4 Teen Choice Awards and 2 People's Choice Awards. Katherine was the People's Choice Female TV Star of 2018. She now stars in DC Comics series Arrow and was recently cast in the Stephen King miniseries The Stand. She's deeply passionate about charity work and released a song where, listen to this, 100% of the proceeds were donated to the United Nations charity Girl Up. She also helped raise $2 million for Children's Mercy Hospital with Selena Gomez. Katherine, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
It's so wonderful to meet someone who's doing so many incredible things, so incredibly talented, doing this on very little sleep.
Well, it's what I do. I've never needed much sleep.
How much have you slept again, did you say, in the last 24 hours?
I don't exactly know, but most of it happened on an airplane. But no, honestly, people ask me all the time, because I always keep a crazy schedule like this of how I do it with no sleep. And it's because I'm dedicating my time to things that I really care about. You know, I genuinely want to be doing these things. And so, you know, if it means I have to give up a couple hours of sleep, that's worth it.
I love that. And how did you get involved with We Day? I'm fascinated to know the story of how did you find out? How did you hear about it?
So We Day is something that I've known about for a long time. Actually, a lot of my cast members from Shadowhunters have done We Day events all over the world. And it's something that I've been trying to find an opportunity in my schedule and an opportunity where, you know, I have met up with We Day's course of action. And this just happened to be perfect. I just finished up shooting Arrow here, and I'm about to start The Stand here as well. And
congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And so here we are.
So this is your first We Day too?
This is my first We Day.
Mine too.
Oh,
I love this.
Go.
Yeah, awesome. Great. First We Days. Yeah, and that's the same for me. So I've been wanting to get into We Day for so long. Mm-hmm. So many of my friends are involved in We Day. And so it's been a very similar journey.
Well,
so
there we go. Where it's meant to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to dive into so many things about you. And the first thing I want to talk about is what was your first not your first, what's your favorite memory of growing up in Kansas City?
I think some of my favorite memories growing up in Kansas City all happened at my grandparents' house. They have this house, it's in this beautiful wooded area, and it sort of became my nature playground. Was their backyard. They had all these woods and hills and rocks and things I could climb around and look at the wildlife and just kind of be alone in my imagination. And that, I think, started a lot of my sense of make-believe, which is truly what I believe led me to being an actor. I never wanted to be an actor as a kid. I didn't even know that was a job, coming from a family of science and medical professionals. And I wanted to be an economist as a kid. Wow. So that was totally my track until I, fell into this backwards. But that and just the sense of community there, there's something so special about it, which is why I always go back as much as I can. And that's why I'm so involved with the Big Slick as well, which is the organization that was started by Jason Sudeikis and Paul Rudd and Will Forte, David Koechner, Rob Riggle, Eric Stonestreet, all of these really successful actors that are from Kansas City. And they go back every year. It started as a little poker game. And now this year we raised over $2 million for Children's Mercy Hospital there in 2 days. They calculated all of the numbers. And in the last 10 years, they've raised over $10 million for the hospital. And it's amazing. It's just so lovely to be a part of and really shows the spirit of Kansas City.
That's unbelievable. I love that story. And tell me a bit about it, because I love what you shared there. And I joke a lot about how when I was growing up, I had 3 options, either to become a lawyer, a doctor, or a failure, because that's kind of like all I knew about. Yeah. And so when you said that you didn't know that you could be an actor, like you didn't know it existed, I felt the same way about anything in media. Like I didn't think it was a real career. And like you said, your family was medical professionals. Your mom was a scientist.
Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh.
And it's like, tell me about that decision of wanting to be an economist and then falling backwards into this, because I think so many of our viewers are always thinking about finding their passion and finding something that they really believe in. Like you said, doing things that are meaningful.
Absolutely.
How did you switch from economist to this?
It sort of hit me like a brick wall. I was always a huge math nerd. And to this day, I love economics because it's the real world application of the math that I love so much. And I was just so fascinated by the fact that these formulas and graphs and complex math that I learned so much about could actually be used to predict and explain things that happen in the real world. And once I discovered that, it was kind of a runaway train of I became obsessed with different things, particularly developmental economics, because I loved the sort of anthropological aspect that gets thrown into that when you're trying to find ways to help these developing countries exist in the world in a way that they can grow to their full potential. And that fascinated me. But aside from that, I was a ballet dancer as a hobby, and a Girl Scout and a softball player and all these other things. But I ran into a family friend who was directing a community theater production and needed a dancer. And I was the kid who would try anything. So I was like, sure, why not? Let's go do this theater thing and see what that's all about. And I will never forget walking on stage on opening night. You have these moments of clarity in life, and they come few and far between, but you know beyond a doubt when they happen. And I walked on stage and something hit me like a brick wall, and I just knew in that moment that I was put on this earth to tell stories. And I was put on this earth to create characters and to be a part of this communal entertainment form, I guess. And I've never looked back.
I love that. That's so beautiful. And I think you're so right. You articulated so well that we all get an opportunity if we slow down, if we kind of pause a little and take in these experiences, we all get these moments of clarity.
Yeah.
And I always say, like, when you eat something, you know whether you like it or not straight away.
It's true.
But we never do that. We never reflect on that when we're doing something new.
Right.
Or like when we do an activity, like you said, when I walked on stage, you just, you felt it.
Yeah.
And I think we should just check in with ourselves more.
It's true.
When you do something new and be like, did I like that? Like, did I not like that?
I heard somebody give a talk earlier this year about being vulnerable to joy. And there was something I thought was so beautiful in that, because so often we're so focused on what the next thing is or protecting ourselves or whatever it is that we don't allow ourselves to be open to whatever it is that's coming our way.
Yeah.
And so we miss out on so much. And I've tried to really make a concerted effort to do that, to be vulnerable to whatever it is, be it joy, be it a lesson to be learned, be it whatever.
Yeah. Tell me something that you've learned recently or something that you've been learning recently.
Something that I've learned recently is the importance of taking a moment, actually. Just what you said, taking a moment, taking a breath, and just I live a life of a lot of chaos recently. And it's really important to stop and take in those moments and just sit for a minute sometimes and really just be present and absorb what it is that you're in the midst of.
Yeah, I love that. Tell me how, and I mean this genuinely, how does someone finish high school at 14 and get a degree at 17?
Well, this kind of ties into why we're here today.
Yes.
I've always been a huge nerd, but I credit that to one of my very first teachers. She was my preschool teacher, and she saw something in me, this propensity and love for learning, and took the time to foster that. So for me, from my family as well to this teacher, school, learning, education was always presented to me as discovery, as joy, as what can you figure out about the world?
Curiosity.
What can you learn? How can you expand what it is that you know? It was never a chore. It was never something negative. It was never, presented as work in a sense. And so that's how I've always approached learning. And I was allowed to go at my own pace and did a lot of online and correspondence programs that allowed me to do that while still going to the school for art and music and recess and lunch and all the fun things. And it was the perfect storm for me because I got the best of both worlds and accidentally graduated high school at 14.
That is amazing. I love hearing that because I think so many of us have had experiences of school where it was the other two extremes of like boredom, chores, who cares?
Right.
Or in my case, it was very much like performance, getting top grades and like doing well in exams, which also doesn't leave a good impression for kids because it becomes about pressure and pain. And, you're now just trying to catch up with this metric just to show your parents or compare yourself to someone else. So what's your message today to the children on stage? Are you putting that in there? Are they going to hear that?
I'm trying to as much as I can. The topic that I'm discussing is about something a little bit different, but I always try and talk about education because I feel as though so many kids, especially today, either take education for granted or don't see it as something that can be joyful.
Yes.
And it's not to say that, there are going to be assignments or classes or things that are going to be really difficult and not going to be any fun at all. But for me, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm a stubborn optimist, but it's all about finding the fun in them. It's, you have to Mary Poppins it a little bit and figure out how to make it fun and how to make it something that you can enjoy, because you have to do it either way.
Yeah, no, I love that. There's a study that was done at Yale. I get the scientist's second name wrong, so I don't want to say it. Her first name's Amy. And in my book, I talk about how she talks about how they did a study where they interviewed nurses and cleaners and all these people that work as part of a hospital staff.
Mm-hmm.
And they spoke to cleaners and they asked them, describe your job. And half the cleaners described it as low-skilled, dirty, a chore, hard, very difficult. And the other half described it completely differently. They used words like healers, transformers, like they felt that they were a part of humans' emotion and they felt that they were building up these relationships with patients.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a term that Yale crafted called job crafting.
Yeah.
And it's like how you view that is what it becomes. And so some of these people felt that their work was so highly skilled and so fulfilling and so meaningful.
It's funny, if there's anything I've learned in kind of becoming an adult, is that life is all about perspective. Every morning when you wake up, you can choose to have a great day or to have a terrible day, no matter what happens. It's all about how you view it and how you look at the world. And it really is a series of choices.
And what do you do? What's your choice because you live a busy life, you said you have chaos, you're shooting, you're traveling, you're speaking, you're doing charity work. Like when you get those moments in your day where things are going not the way you planned, what's the choice you're making? How are you bringing it back? I'd love to hear.
I always try and find something good, something that I can focus on that can make me smile, or to just laugh at the chaos, because how silly things can be and how, absurdly chaotic things can get. It just gets to a point of you have to laugh or you're going to cry and I'd much rather laugh. And it's sort of how I was raised. My whole family does that. My grandmother was the head nurse of an ER for several decades, and nothing phases her. She is one of the strongest willed people. Yeah, she's seen everything. And my entire family is of the mind that you can make anything silly. Any situation, you can turn it into laughter.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I was raised. And I try and carry that on and spread that around as much as I possibly can.
Are you a Harry Potter fan?
I'm a huge Harry Potter
You've just reminded me of, what are those things called? My sister's going to hate me for not remembering. What are those things called where they come out as your biggest fear, but you have to imagine it as something funny? You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about, and I can't remember
what are they
for the
called?
life of me right now. We're gonna get roasted by all the Harry Potter.
Right. I'm such a Harry Potter fan too, so this is terrible. Boggart. I feel like it's a Boggart.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah, so,
awesome.
But you know what I'm talking about,
yeah,
right?
I do. Yeah,
and like you see a Dementor, and you have to imagine it as the balloon and the moon that pops or whatever it is. Yeah.
That's exactly
and the
what
spider
I'm talking about.
Ron sees the spider and it's got skates on.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, okay. I love that piece of advice. I've never heard that before, and I think that's awesome.
Okay, if we're talking about Harry Potter, I have to stop you. What's your house?
So when I've been to the Sorting Hat in the Harry Potter studios, and it said Gryffindor.
Okay, I can see that.
But I have a bit of Slytherin in me.
Well, I don't think anyone is purely one house. I have a theory on this.
So I have a bit of Slytherin in me.
Okay,
I like the rebellious, kind of pushing, not evil.
No,
just rebellious and pushing buttons and like trying new stuff.
Yeah.
How about you?
I would say I'm Ravenclaw with Gryffindor tendencies and a sprinkle of Hufflepuff.
Oh, okay.
That's what I've come to determine.
Okay, so no Slytherin in you then.
I mean, maybe a little, but not enough to claim it.
I love it. I'm glad we dove into Harry Potter. We've never done that on any podcast ever before. But no, that advice of, laugh and see how silly things are. And I think sometimes it takes us time to see that, but actually we can do that in the moment and we can laugh at it. Like, please be a Boggart. Please.
Yes.
I have to check that. You say that being a chameleon is one of your favorite things about your job. Tell me more about that.
It's something that I see in the best of actors and something I've really worked hard to try and emulate in my career. You see it in actors like Meryl Streep and Sam Rockwell and, the actors of that nature where they completely transform. Every single character they play is entirely different in look, in physicality, in the way that they interact with the other characters in the world around them, the way they speak, the way they walk. And that's something that I think is essential to our job. Because, we have the opportunity to walk a million different lives and play a million different people and figure out how they work. And I think the farther I can push myself to completely transform and immerse myself in every character I play, the more diverse of a Rolodex of characters I'll be able to play, but also the better I'll be able to serve the story.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a part of a story to put myself forward. I'm a part of the story to kind of be within that canvas and within that cast of characters, and to, you know, serve the greater arc of whatever the story is telling, and play my piece, and, you know, play my part well, and serve the greater machine of the story. And, you know, it's also really fun to see how far you can go in a different direction and be somebody completely different.
Absolutely. And what's your process like? Do you do method acting? Would you see yourself considering that? Or what's your process to really get into a role? Like, is it research? Is it spending time? What's your habits? I want to know how you break it down when you get
It's a little bit of everything, honestly.
Okay.
And it differs based on the project and what it requires. So I always do as much research as I can, given that I'm a huge nerd.
Yes.
And it helps me to know as much as I can, because then it will kind of help inherently, even if I'm not actively thinking about it. If I have the knowledge, it'll be in the back of my head when I need it. And then, you know, if there's source material, I'll definitely go read it. Like for Shadowhunters, I read the Mortal Instruments series just because so much of it is told from Clary's perspective.
Yes.
And even though our series was very different, at least I had that knowledge and I had that in the back of my head that I could pull little bits from. Or with Arrow, because I was playing Oliver and Felicity's daughter, given that their characters were so iconic and so well developed, I went through and watched the entire series so that I could pull little qualities and nuances and quirks and things to pepper through, so that she really was an amalgamation of these two characters that audiences know so well. Yeah. So I'll do a bit of that, and then, you know, I love Pinterest. So I'll go on Pinterest and I'll look up different clothing or different hair and makeup looks or whatever it is, to see kind of what I can piece together and see something that I might not have thought of, or something that I might, you know, this, that, or if there's an accent required, or if, you know, I do as much as I can, and then try and watch a few similar tonal projects or similar characters to see what other people have done in similar situations, just to try and get as many ideas as I can get, as much influence as I can, to see what I like, what I don't, what I want to pull, what I want to incorporate, what's in the back of my head, just so I have as much information as I can to play with on the day.
Mm-hmm. That makes complete sense.
Yeah.
I love what an intellectual pursuit acting is. It's great.
It can be.
It can be. Well, when I'm listening to you.
And that's about 50% of it. Yeah. I always say I do 50% of my work before I get there, and then 50% of it happens on the day, because so much of it depends on the director and the other actors in the scene and the set when you get there and the environment, because half of acting is interacting with the other people and with the environment around you. So if I come in and I've done all my work and I'm solidly set in what I'm going to do, I don't have any flexibility, and there's no room for play.
Yeah.
So you have to get there and be able to kind of bounce around and adapt and go, okay, let's play ball. Let's pass this tennis ball back and forth and see what happens.
Yeah, I think that's a great rule. 50% before, 50% afterwards. Because sometimes we try to prepare 100% and then almost you paralyze yourself when you're in the zone, right? You can't be playful and mess around.
And my favorite moments are those little magic things that happen that surprise you.
Totally.
You know, that you finish a take and you go, I did not expect it to go that way at all. I did not expect to feel that whatsoever, but holy moly, that was great.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And it's funny, now we need to find you to be casted as an economist, because then you won't have to prepare.
Perfect.
You can just go in.
Let's do it.
Well, that's play.
I mean, that is what my degree is in. Yeah, so there you go.
Exactly. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. And you know, if you were playing an economist, do you know any cool economist stories? Or like any historical pieces? There must be something cool.
I mean, unless I'm playing Alan Greenspan, which I really don't think I would be cast as. I'm going to have to do some research.
Yeah, I'm sure there are. I'm sure there's some crazy stories of female economists that are like.
I'll find it.
Yeah, we'll find it. We'll find it. Okay, I know that you love Disney.
I do.
You do love Disney. If you could be a voice actor, if you could be the voice of any character of any Disney movie, who would it be?
There's so many things I'd love to do. I mean, they keep creating all these wonderful new stories. And, you know, when I was a kid, I was always looking for these badass female characters. So Mulan and Pocahontas were my girls.
Yes.
Like, they were the ultimate for me. I wanted to be Mulan as a kid. I had her poster on my wall. It was great. But I'd love to be a part of pretty much any universe. I think Pixar and Disney are doing so many wonderful things right now. And I love the Disney Pixar movies because they're so fun. And you go back and you watch the movies that you loved as a kid, and you can still enjoy them as an adult. It's fascinating that there's so many layers to them that you don't even realize. So I'd love to be a part of that world.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that I've worked for Disney for a long time, and they're such a wonderful company.
Yeah, absolutely. And have you seen that series? You reminded me of something else. We keep going totally off tangent, but you keep feeding into all my passions. Have you seen Wreck-It Ralph, the second one?
I haven't. That's the one I haven't seen.
I'm not going to give it away, but you can go on YouTube and watch this scene. You don't watch the scene first.
Okay.
But there's a scene where all the Disney princesses are there and they're telling their stories, but in a very fun, like in a very educational but funny way.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, about women empowerment and badass women. So it's just, I'm not going to give it away.
Okay.
But I want you to watch it. Even watch
I will.
it.
It's in the second movie?
It's genius. Yeah, it's so well done. And it's Disney almost making fun of themselves for how they portrayed princes, but it's brilliant. It's really good.
I find self-aware comedy to be the most fun because it allows for suspension of belief, but also, you can laugh at yourself a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you've got to go on stage soon. So
I do.
I've got to rush to the rapid fire section. So I ask a final 5, which are fast 5 questions.
Okay.
1 word or 1 sentence answers.
All right.
So here we go. Here's your final 5. What's the biggest risk you've ever taken?
Ooh, biggest risk I've ever taken. I moved to New York City after booking a job within a week and didn't know what I was doing, didn't know how long I was going to be there, but I just said, all right, here we go. And I was 14.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
You left that out. The very important detail.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. What's the toughest decision you've ever made?
Toughest decision I ever made was there was a time in this is kind of an existential decision. There was a time in my life where I could have chosen to stay in a very dark place and allow that to consume me, or choose to frame it positively and make the difficult choice of, at least at the time, of looking on the bright side and finding that silver lining. And I was lucky enough to be surrounded by people that helped me do that and helped me steer down a very healthy path as opposed to a very unhealthy path. And here I am today.
Well, if you don't mind, next time we're both in LA, we both live there, I'd love to unpack that a bit more with you. Actually.
Yeah, sure.
That would be
let's
amazing
talk.
to talk about that. Okay. Third question. The first thing you do in the morning.
Usually I roll out of bed, eat an apple, and go to the gym.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I love working out in the morning. It starts my day right, and it's usually the only time I have.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, fourth question. The last thing you do every night.
Last thing I do every night, I usually, what do? I make sure I take all my makeup off. I'm really, really particular about taking care of my skin. I have to be in this job that we do. I usually call my mom before I go to bed, just check in, see how her day was, and then make sure I don't have any emails to look at, and then off I go.
Amazing. And your fifth and final question, what's one message you'd love to share with all of the kids who are serving through We Day and having such a huge impact?
I would like to say thank you for being conscious of the world around you and for being a global citizen and serving kind of this world that we share and this human race that we have, because it's so important to think beyond yourself and beyond your own life and your own realm to take care of everyone in the world that we live in. It's I always feel if everyone took just a couple of seconds every day to think of someone else and to do something kind for somebody else, the world would be a lot better place. And you guys are already doing that.
Completely agree. Everyone, Katherine, thank you so much. Katherine,
Thank
you're
you.
amazing. And I can't wait to dive in to so many more of these areas with you. I feel I've learned so much more about you today too. And I hope we can do this again. Genuinely.
love
Like there are
to.
so many things that I would love to unpack with you even more.
Let's do it.